So the light is coming from the top left down. That means that this edge right here will have casted a an angle. On an angle it would have casted. So I'm just going to apply that here. Because this cast shadow is pointing to the light source, and the light source is the vanishing point. So the light source is a vanishing point for cast shadows. Write that back to me, please. So at this point, it's not really mandatory to know exactly how it casts. It's not really, you know, nobody's out there measuring this stuff other than me. But it is mandatory that you at least represent some of the basics. So this corner its cast shadow doesn't travel in a straight line because this one would have cast in a straight line. And then you have this ledge, which measures to be about here, and then you have the leftover of this little pocket. So the space between this corner and this guy before we met the ground. So I'm just going to guess at what this looks like. I'm just going to give it like a quick little corner. It doesn't have to be something supremely accurate, but it's just enough. So see what happened? We've created space between this pillar and this walkway just by showing that the cast shadow can reach this area. But a lot of you treat edges like borders, like dams for light. I'm not sure why. It's just the way the brain works. It likes to think flat. That ends up, you know, making you guys make mistakes like, leading you guys into mistakes like forgetting that a corner is also in the way of the light source just as much as this corner is. This corner and this corner are the same species of corner. They're the same kind of angle. They are positioned exactly in the same way on the same line, and yet one of them will cast a shadow this way and one of them didn't. And that's because you saw the stairs, the starting point is the stairs, you shared it with the cast shadow of this area. Obviously, that's incorrect. Things don't do this in the real world. Then there's the fact that, you know, it shows that you have the same issue again. You have the same issue with treating lines as border. I don't know what's going on with this fucking Photoshop. All right, so this line right here that you had for this vanishing point, for some reason, that line was where you ended the cast shadow. The cast shadow doesn't give a goddamn, you know, where everything is. The cast shadow is just going to keep going. Why did you think that you needed an edge here? So let's try to match it up. This edge is this corner, and then you had a house kind of like a little roof moving inward. So this may have traveled this way a little bit, and then you got that inward movement, and then you got the rest of the corner here, and then you've got this steepley little thing right there, and then you've got some more stuff there, and it needed more. It needed more space, and again, for some reason, you treated the lines around it as a border the way you treated the line here as a border. This little line right here where the stairs start. So the cast shadow is limitless. It goes wherever it wants to. A cast shadow was like a rogue blanket and a rogue sheet in the wind. It falls wherever it wants to fall. It falls wherever it can fall. This little line here or this little line here wasn't reason to stop a cast shadow. A cast shadow doesn't need grooming. It doesn't need, other than representing how it blurs the further it gets from an object. Then there's your values. I think altogether they're a little bit dark considering the light environment is so bright. So I'm just going to get the lighten layer and just choose something a little bit more mild just to lighten everything up. And there will be areas that stay pockets. So this little squared off area right here, this area right here and this area might become darker pockets. They work like a cave, so that means they get less bounce light in them. They have less access. So this might get a little bit darker. The starting corner right here, where cast shadows start, is usually their darkest, sharpest point. Yeah. So let me see. Sorry, one moment. Just a technical difficulty. Alright. Then there's the missing cast shadow of the staircase. So that might cast a shadow just like that. And everything beside. And just like so. And there's the missing cast shadow of this corner on the house. Alright, and then there's the light as well. Just a little bit of light. Actually, a light on the whole thing. It's looking up a little bit closer. There's the cast shadow of the roof or awning on the pillar. That might look, yeah, it'll be a sort of a straight line. Alright, so treat your cast shadows a little bit more like the light is their vanishing point, and let them open up the space in your paintings. So yes. Okay. For this one, which is a really, really big deal, this one here is just a lot to do. It's very ambitious, and you're trying to do so much with all at once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work off what you did, and like I usually do, and I'm going to make this a big beam of light behind her. What does a big beam of light do? What does that mean? It means that suddenly we have an environment. If we have an environment, it means we have to darken everything, because this beam of light has represented a silhouette. So things are getting tense right now. Alright, so I'm darkening everything. I'm going to grab this layer that I just darkened and go back to before I did that and erase away at the light source only. What that will do is set us up for a silhouette. So now what's happening is we're treating this environment now. Treating this setup that you did with this weird white bar, we're treating it as an environment. Okay, and then there's color correction. So you have a lot of colors coming from all kinds of places. You got colors from Timbuktu, colors from Transylvania. I'm sorry, these jokes suck. So what we're doing here is grabbing that pink and and just throwing it over some of the skin tones here. Pink is easy to throw on a skin tone because skin can be pink. It's hard to throw blue on a skin tone or cool down a skin tone without it getting a little bit muddy. So that's why I went for the pink instead. Alright, so I'm doing that. And again, I'm just going to, since I deleted already, I'm going to keep darkening. And I'm going to cool things down real nice, just like that. Okay? So we've got nice, strong highlights coming from behind. We've got a weird little tangent there. Then there's the proportion problems that you have. You got a couple. Body is just massive compared to the head. So I'm going to start off with the shoulder line. I'm not sure what she's doing with her pose. I'm not going to worry about that at all. There's too much else to worry about. So you've got composition problems, color problems, not just color problems, but like color, yeah, altogether color problems. You've got gesture problems. You've got narrative problems. You've got too many issues here for you to be trying to do everything all at once. You haven't studied enough this particular delivery of all these fundamentals for you to be on stage attempting to deliver them. You know, you haven't practiced this dance enough for you to be performing it. So it's just too much for you to be performing at the moment. Massive body after. So what I'm going to do now is just keep trying to make this illustration make sense in the composition. I'm going to break this tangent because it's really, really horrible. So a tangent means that just this light bar is ending where her shoulder ends, and it's just getting a little bit horrible to make out anything. Again, this weird obsession with lines where you guys place lines. See how much nicer it is when we have that relief and we have that shape of her body behind, in front of the light source. I'm going to throw in some bloom. It's a bit too much bloom. I'm just going to fix this shape here. I just want to show you really quickly on Portrait Studio what happens when we, because I'm actually going to have Abu help me. When we place a light behind a character, how intense that light setup turns into. So I'm using dodge tool right now because I'm starting to burn things up a bit. And just look at how quickly things are starting to make sense. I'm going to choose an area that is darker than everything else. I'm going to grab a purple, something that I choose to be the shadow color. Kind of like a purpley blue. Actually, a blue, navy blue, something like that. Actually, fuck navy blue. I'm going to go into purpley blue. And I'm going to use darken, and I'm just going to use that on everything that is not touched by the light, everything far away from the light. Even she should be a little bit more blue, because we're trying to represent this as an open space. And make this make a little bit more sense. Then there's the little additional light that you have here, this additional magic. So you're really not giving yourself a break over here. And I'm gonna just make some areas of the magic glowing. I'm not gonna make all of it glow. This little dragon-y piece here. Just trying to set it up so that we're getting like a little bit of everything, but not everything just gets to be as bright as it wants to be, you know, willy-nilly. Still feel like I'm interrupting the light by doing this. So I'm just gonna darken. And then we have this beautiful opportunity now. Don't know what you're doing with these petals, honestly. I'm just gonna make them a little bit more monochromatic. But what you're doing here is you're missing out on some really, really key features with the light being behind her. So you're missing out on the shoulder line of the neck, which is a very feminine signature of beauty, this long neck and shoulder line. So I'm going to get that neck back. And I'm going to illuminate the hair behind her with some of the light color. I'm going to make it hottest where it's behind her face. Shit. Alright, I lost my liquefier. That's fine. Face isn't doing much. I'm not sure what her face is doing. I'm going to make her do something interesting. I'm going to make her look in a different direction. With a bit more sass. A bit more like deceit, or you know, some kind of like femme fatale or something like that is what it feels like you're drawing over here. I'm gonna throw a little bit of the hair closer to her face. Something a little bit more interesting. Fix that light bar. This is a big mouthful. This one, it's a big bite. You know, it's very ambitious critique for me as much as it is an ambitious attempt for you. But I'm going to try my best to make sure I can deliver. Okay, so carrying that light bar all the way across the environment. Complete it. Not too much sepia, whatever it is that hangs out around there. And then we're going to go for la pièce de la résistance, which is the outline. And it's not a straight up outline, it's just wherever there's subsurface happening. And there will be subsurface on her hair color as well, which I'm going to use as pink. Just look at that. A little bit of subsurface scattering on her ears. Just going to borrow a pink nearby. Nothing too intense. Actually, I caused a tangent, so let me just overlap. Just like that. Always looking at my navigator to double check. Always checking with my navigator. Always. Never forget your navigator. Your navigator is your assistant, like Iron Man's assistant. That's your navigator, okay? You know Iron Man assistant girl, Jarvis? And you use the exact color of the light. You don't just go, I'm going to go in here and choose my own little outline color. Oh, no, you don't. You just choose this one right here. You go for this one, okay? Not everything is up to you. The light decides everything. Okay? You don't just get to be creative with every little thing you do. There's a reason for every color. There is a purpose for every choice. I'm going to just try to get that shoulder line. Sometimes you might get a little bit of a collarbone illuminated here and there. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of cheek light coming through the hair. And then there's the subsurface scattering, just all over. So what we're doing is we're outlining the shape of her head, removing the ears, and then just grabbing this little piece here. And that's what gets the subsurface. Again, outlining the shape of her head. So the head is the opaque object, which is the object that is not see-through, but everything else is. And that's what we're illuminating. It might not work. It might be a big debacle. But we're still following the rules. Yeah, it worked. Now we just have to make sure that it's the right color, okay? So color, subsurface scattering has to represent the right color. And so Abu! Hey, boo-boo! Not just the right color, but the light source's color as well. See how the shape of her head is still intact? Oops, still in color mode. I'm just throwing some light on her area here. This bow here, I mean, I don't recommend it. I don't know why this bow is more important than her shoulder line. See how much more interesting that looks when we get her slender shoulder line back, because that's photography, that's fashion. You try not to hide the shoulder line if that's all you got. So I suggest you, I don't know, find somewhere else for that bow, or just throw in some subsurface as well. So find the most opaque part, and that's what we throw in. There we go. So Abu is actually going to help me set up this portrait studio, exactly the same thing, same scene. He's actually going to help me set it up. So I know how to do a lot of the stuff in here already, but there's some stuff that I don't know how to do. So turn off directional light, introduce a point light, move it behind the character. Actually, no, I want an object light. So do I add an object and make it a light source?
Yeah. Do I use a mannequin or just...
This is fine. This is fine where it is right now.
Okay. Well,
so say hi to everybody.
hello, everyone.
So I'm just moving the mic closer to you.
Okay.
So talk us through what you're doing, please.
Okay, well, I'm just going to have the point light everything up, or the object light. So, I'm trying to, okay.
It's just a bar that you tilt over behind her.
Yeah, I'm just gotta get the control over
Go
here.
ahead.
Okay, so, this will probably be the best one to use. I'm gonna add a little bit of, like, pink, that pink color, for ambience.
Nice.
And then,
amplify your voice a bit.
sorry, I'm like leaning over the desk, so
do
it's kind of hard.
Do you want to take my chair?
No, it's good. It's good. I'm almost done. Okay, so you just do that, and then you do one of these.
So you introduced an object from secondary models. You turned off all other light. You changed the ambient color. And now you're positioning the object that you're going to turn into a light source.
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to make it match.
You got to turn off the background light. The background value.
Yeah, you could do that after. Okay. That's pretty close, right?
Do it now before you turn on the object light.
Okay. So, background color. Let's make it black.
You got to make it sepia as well. You got to make that color.
Is that good?
A little bit darker, actually.
Here, you can do that.
It's a little bit darker in the painting. Okay.
And then you go to emission, and you set the color to white, and then you increase the emission strength, and then you get that back scatter. Let's see, the reflection's a little too strong, so you can turn it down or turn it off if you want to. Make it less reflective.
That grain, what is that?
That's just a sampling, so you can just turn it up or down.
Okay.
In these settings.
So you went to settings.
Trace steps high, balances high. Okay. Full resolution, occlusion levels 2. And occlusion levels is just how many times it scans for when the light is blocked by an object. 2 is default, so 2 is like the best one to have. And then that should be good like that.
And how about the glow or the emission?
The glow from this, go down here into bloom, and then increase that.
Woo! I'm sorry.
A little bit.
I get really excited. How about the bloom itself? The bloom bar, is that just the title, or is that a bar?
What do you mean?
Right here.
That's just the title.
Oh, the title.
For it.
Okay. Raise it up a little bit higher, actually.
There you go.
Okay. And can you tilt the light so that the light is outlining the shoulder the way it is? I mean, it's really similar.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that because you gotta press the button and stuff.
There you go. And then she's kind of like tilted back. So actually some of her chest is going to get some light as well. Can we just turn off this completely?
The what?
The
enhanced lighting?
No, the jitter. I forget why. I forgot how to turn that
What
off.
jitter?
The noise. Sorry.
It's just a sampling. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm picky.
I'm sorry. I'm really picky.
Yeah. So what you can do is, if you want, do this. Is that good? Is this good?
Yeah.
This is done?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me hide this. Press this.
What, F1?
Yeah. So
Control, you have to tell people what you just did.
I turned
Control
off
H.
the menu using Control H, and then I hit F1 to take a screenshot. So now you have a screenshot, and you're not gonna see that little noise because it's sampled lower now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It was blown up, so I made it smaller.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks like in the painting, like there's a directional light from the front.
Yeah, there is a directional light.
So you can do that.
So let's add a directional light.
Yeah. Go back, and then directional light right there. Yep. And then just turn it down a little bit. And then just position it.
Yeah, so it's pretty much positioned where it's supposed to be, but let's
maybe
go.
change the color too. And then you can just disable the ambient light if you want to.
Disable the ambient light, you said?
Yeah, because you have a directional light that's giving you that light. So scroll up, ambient color, and then bring that down in black.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unless her environment is emitting any kind of light, then she wouldn't have all that pink, right?
Mhm.
So you can turn that on and off.
Okay. I'm just gonna move this guy like over here.
Also, why don't you let me see?
Mhm.
Why don't you do this?
Features. Ear shape. Oh, okay.
Just a little bit, kind of get it
Mhm.
shaped right and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, and that's pretty much recreating the same thing. So now I have a guide for the chest area. So I knew I would be seeing some more of the chest, but I wasn't 100% sure. Now I am. And a little bit of the light just kind of like falling in radially just on the chest area. And a little bit on the shoulders if I remember correctly. Thank you, Abu.
You're welcome.
Just all moving in together. And so now we added an environment. I don't like the pink at all. I feel like we need something a little bit more cool. That's just my taste in the matter. You can also give the light source a color if you want to. And then there's the detail issue. Just a little detail problem. You have a bit too much detail causing a disruption of the focus. And a little bit of motion blur isn't going to destroy the purpose of this little dragon surrounding her. So a little bit of blur can go a long way in making it feel like it is an active energy force or whatever it is that's surrounding her. And that's it. That's it really. You can add some more like loose pieces of hair kind of overlapping each other. You can add something like that. It doesn't have to be a perfect shape, a solid shape for the haircut. You can have a bit more of a loose style going on. Maybe the top part of her hair just here is getting some of the light source on it. Just like that. So we turned your kind of really, really flat setup into an entire environment just by assigning the light source a role, or assigning the light source a purpose. And that's, if the light source was behind the character, we would be seeing a silhouette. So before, after. We darkened everything, unafraid to darken. You gotta just bite the bullet. You gotta go and darken it. If we didn't darken her, this would never have worked. But a lot of you are so afraid of touching your characters, are so afraid of disrupting what you've already made. You're so afraid of darkening things. You're so afraid of large changes that you would not have darkened the way you need to in order to have had this be successful. The larger upper body has all made her look like a bodybuilder. The head was extremely shrunken. And then after, the subsurface on the ears is a little bit weak. There we go. And I'm just going to throw in some of that on the rest of the ear. Just like so. Okay, so it's a lot of stuff to do with light sources, and Portrait Studio definitely helped us out. But it all starts with you shouldn't need anything to remind you that the direction of the light source is important for a painting. I shouldn't even have to ask you guys to write that back to me, but time and again we see students who can draw a face and suddenly they feel like they're kings of the world and they can do anything now. But just because you can draw a face doesn't mean you're ready to manage and moderate all that is required in an environment or illustration. But if you want to, don't forget the direction of the light source. Don't forget that the light source isn't always going to be in front of the character. And for dramatic effect or for purpose or for something interesting, you might want to introduce a light source behind the character or directly atop the character. The light source is a way to dress up the scene. You become a movie director, not so much an artist, just an artist anymore. So you're using the light source to direct the narrative of the story. If she's supposed to be some sort of femme fatale, I'd put another light source behind her curves, one behind her shoulder line, and I've accentuated the two major defining feminine aspects of beauty for this character. So she's dangerous, she's got her power, she's beautiful, she's got her cunning look, and then I've accentuated that she's also beautiful and alluring and whatever, and can kill her enemies by making them think that she likes them. I don't know what the hell women do nowadays. I would probably put another light bar here because it'll help me mess around with some translucency in the fabric of her dress. I would try to lengthen her body a little bit more, and your whole canvas seems to be like a little bit short. The whole canvas here seems to be a little bit short. Just like that. So maybe enlarging the canvas a little bit, giving us something to work with, and then a light bar directly behind her. All of that would really push this painting into the extremes. Maybe that's a little bit low for, never mind. I can. I'm not a lazy punk. Okay, I'm going to make it parallel with that. You can have it cross the other direction. I mean, that's fine. No, that'd be too much light overlaying over there. Okay, so let me try it up here. And okay, so let me see what I can do. Very nice. And I'm going to darken it. Making it white only when it's directly behind her. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And then we're going to need some bloom. And of course, weakening the light source towards the edges. It's a little bit strong, but it'll do. And then we need just the rest of her body to complete the painting. Okay, so it feels a little bit more complete. I would make this bar not just a solid bar. I'd kind of make it look like some kind of lightning, or not lightning, but give it some texture. So actually make like cuts in the bar here. Anything really to give it some more intrigue. Just something like that. And you have a more complete piece compared to where we were before. But even before, like all of this light bar stuff, these changes help the painting out a lot. Okay, before, after. Any questions at all? Just because you can't draw, but just because you can draw a face doesn't mean you know shit. That's not exactly how I said it, but yeah, something similar. Okay, so hi Esther, I recently became an apprentice, still don't know how to join the Discord. Alright, it's not the time for those kind of questions. You guys can send me messages on Patreon. Abu ASMR, then Istebrak screams, rest in peace, ears. When do you think the Portrait Studio tutorial will be out? Very, very soon. As soon as the Mack release is ready. But speaking of which, these are some of the environments ready for our next update in Portrait Studio. So we downloaded we brought in some crazy resources and an environment pack. This is some of the stuff that Abu has kind of like prototyped. Okay, so not only can you bring in multiple objects now in Portrait Studio, but now you have environment objects to bring in that you can create an entire scene with. Take a look at that. You can create all that now in Portrait Studio. It's not so much a Portrait Studio anymore, it's an Ultimate Studio. Let's move on. These colors, starting with the background value. What is wrong with the background value? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, lightsabers would look so cool. Alright, so I'm just waiting for people to answer because there's a bit of a lag. Yes, you do get leaves. I believe Abu just finished working on the leaves. Sorry if you said this already, but when will the Mack release happen? Sometime within the next 2 weeks, hopefully. We are still figuring out how to get things transferring over equally. There will be some features that are just not possible on a Mac because of the Windows patented kind of graphics software, whatever it is that Windows only can use, and that's why when we export something to Windows, we have more of a variety to work with. But you will still get a lot of the power that you see in Portrait Studio for those who own a Mac. You will have to, I believe, repurchase for Mac for those who own a Mac. It's not going to be, your Windows copy is not going to be transferable over. And we've left behind many warnings for people that Windows is not going to work on a Mac. Even with Wine, there might be a bit of an issue. Not everyone can run with it. Abu just sent me this screenshot of some skeletons that we have in Portrait Studio. some skulls from different creatures. I imagine combining these with a female body or a male body, and some top-down lighting, and just getting some beautiful, beautiful stuff. Maybe like a character sitting on a throne with a crown of a skull or something like that. And just, I love that you can bring in more than one object now. Really, really powerful. So stop distracting me with these with these photos. Let me see what it should be lighter, judging from the harsh shadows. Exactly. So light source is going to be a little bit lighter now. Be making the background value a little bit brighter, and that'll explain what's happening with the skin. And then the skin is just going to get shifted over into reds, because what was happening with the skin is that you were using a completely yellow, like it wasn't just yellow pigment in the skin, it was like a yellow skin. I'm trying to get rid of some of your excessive shadows here. And I'm going to darken her, just so that we can respect kind of the values you came from. Actually, I'm going to shift over into red again, into some purples. I'm darkening and bringing up values. Darkening for richer values. And lightening this as well. Okay, so a lot of the shadows that you're pushing here, a lot of the shadows are drowning out away some detail. So let's just take a look at the before and after. So before, pure yellow, like it was a yellow person. It wasn't just like it was Sin City bad guy yellow. It wasn't just like a pigment or a type of skin tone or a complexion. It was straight up yellow. All right, so now that we have more of a skin tone from which we emerge, let's figure out what we're going to want to do with all of this. So the contrast is still off. Your skin tone isn't equal all the way through. So the skin tone isn't really the same skin tone all the way around the face. So in the nose, it looks like it's something else. The mouth looks like it's something else. The blush values that you have around the skin are all not equal. None of them are really behaving the same. So you have this really, really orange cherry red for the mouth, but you've got this really, really pale pinkish color for the cheeks. So I'm just going to keep moving in that pink direction. Lots of pink today. And there's a shadow around the eyes, completely hiding any detail. And there's the form. The form is just a little bit off because the top of the head isn't really responding to a top-down light source. So I'm trying to make it respond to a top-down to explain why you have these really encircling shadows around the forehead. And this shadow of the nose is traveling all the way down, so just make it go down. Because if we go back here, I'm just going to restart. So just so you. If we go back here and extend the shadow of the nose all the way down, the way we did with yours, the cast shadow of the nose will go down into the lips. And it'll explain kind of why, I just threw it on an angle, why we see so little of the eyes. And this is all cast shadow over here, if we make sense of what you're doing here. But you have a lot of light sources behaving at the same time. The cast shadow of the neck would be way lower. Way, way, way lower. Something a bit more like that. And that'll kind of match everything together. Alright, so you had multiple values for the skin tone. You had an inappropriate representation of the light environment. You had a completely off pigment for the skin, unrecognizable as human. And you had inconsistent representation of the light source's direction through the features. Alright, so now I've kind of tried to unify everything. I've tried to diffuse some of your shadows, but still it's a lot of work ahead. If I were to try to diffuse all of them, I'd be repainting a lot of this. So you are, in for it. You have a lot of stuff to study. What you did here is something more like that. you did. Forget how to, okay, there we go. This is typically what you did here. Okay. We would actually need, yeah, it would be right there. So I guessed pretty well. I guessed it good. I'm good. I'm joking. Okay. To move this actually in Portrait Studio, you just press on the number 1, or you can mess around with these angles. Vertical angle or horizontal angle will change the direction of the light source for those who own Portrait Studio. Alright, so before, so many things that you had off. Color, light environment, light direction, skin tone, consistency, complexion consistency. And then there's obviously the fact that all cast shadows should be desaturated and more purple. So I'm desaturating this, this, and bringing in a purple equivalent of that value by shifting down into red, which has a lot of purple in it, just as much purple as you need. And that'll kind of complete the colors here. And wherever there is light, there is yellow. Write that back. And I'm using the exact light color here. Skin is looking very realistic. It would need a bit more diffusion for subsurface scattering, but it's just enough for now. And if she was a bit more green, outside of the values that we just added for purple and yellow, we can shift her over here. But where you were specifically was pure green. A dark, muddy diarrhea green. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring in a bit more contrast. Just a touch. Actually, never mind. Screw the contrast. All right. Any questions at all, anyone? Oops. Wherever there's natural light, there's yellow. Yeah, there you go. All right, so I think that's it for today, actually. This one I might save till next time because it's a bit out there as well. I did quite an extensive change on this one, which also relates to the changes I would have made on the other piece. So flatten, and then before, after. Okay, so remember the fundamentals that I covered exactly for these changes. What would you name the fundamentals? So lighting as a silhouette, eclipsing the light, diffuse, consistent skin tone color and complexion, an anatomically correct skin color, light source consistency and light direction being the god of your image. What is the direction of the light source asked for both of these paintovers, the portrait and the pink girl? Both of them had a major question of the direction of the light source, which defines and helps you identify the area where we have the native core shadows. Core shadows are basics, but it doesn't mean they're simple. The direction of the light source actually was covered in this one as well. Okay, so the direction of the light source will always haunt you, will always follow you around. Form studies will always follow you. To find a good balance between object and subject study is going to help you overlap the two. You won't be able to unsee the cube, and therefore you won't be able to unhear the call of the direction of the light source. You won't be able to unsee the native geometry in what you're drawing. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. If you guys want to submit your work for critique, you just have to go to istebrak.com and click on the little Google Plus icon right here. I just assigned this month's Patreon assignment. It's really, really fun. It's all about gesture animation. So if anyone's interested in joining us on the Patreon Apprentice Discord, you can support me on Patreon. So it's pretty much an equivalent to private tutoring, but obviously on a much more smaller scale. But you do have curriculum, you do have assignments. We have a private critique hour hosted at the end of every month. You have to hand in your homework. You get peer critique. There's a little community critique text group that I critique in all the time. You submit anything that you're working on outside of homework or to do with homework, and I critique it for you. So you have a lot of tiers. Obviously, the Discord is only available for the highest tier. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday the 12th. I'm sorry about my absence last week. I was very sick. And I wasn't doing so well. And it's been a lot of hiking, a lot of summer stuff that I've been trying to keep up with, and I got very sick in the matter. But hopefully no more absences. I don't like not showing up to these sessions with you guys. They're kind of like the lifeblood of my community. I'm so sorry again. I'm so tired at this. I don't even seem like myself. I don't even recognize myself. I've lost like a ton of weight, and I've just been really enjoying the summer and trying to keep my head above water. But thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye guys.